Hi there, I'm Denis from the Magic the Gathering YouTube channel Windmill Slam, and we are here at Dungeons & Donuts in Galway. We've teamed up with Wizards of the Coast, the makers of the game, to bring you a video that we guarantee will teach you to play the game in under 10 minutes. This is all part of the Magic Open House event taking place this weekend, when you can head down to your local game store and learn to play the game, come back after a long break, or bring a friend and show them why Magic really is one of the best games out there. Head to wizards.com/locator to find a store near you. There are 5 colours in Magic: white, which stands for order and justice; blue, which values knowledge and a little bit of trickery; black, which advocates for winning at all costs; red, which promotes self-expression and passion; and green, which fosters growth and brute strength. You will use a combination of these to defeat your opponent, and choosing what style you identify with is one of the best aspects of Magic. Magic the Gathering is a collectible card game where you are a planeswalker, a being capable of traveling between the different dimensions or planes that make up the multiverse where the game is set. Players take turns trying to reduce each other's life total from 20 to 0 by calling upon creatures and spells from these different planes. Each plane is unique, and the cards from these planes feel and function differently. Let's take a look at what the game looks like. Oisín, what are we looking at here?
So this is what a game of Magic looks like. This is my deck, or my library, as it's called in Magic. This is my hand, the cards I currently have at my disposal, and this is the battlefield, the cards that are in play right now. There's also the graveyard, where cards go when they're discarded, and creatures go when they die.
If I'm going to play with Oisín, I'm going to need some cards of my own. This is a welcome deck, and these are available from your local game store for free if you're learning to play. The game begins with each player shuffling their library and then drawing 7 cards. You also draw a card at the start of each of your turns, but the player going first doesn't draw on their first turn.
Your deck is made up of lands and spells. Lands produce mana, which you need to cast your spells. These are basic land cards. There's one for each color, and you can play 1 land on each of your turns. In order to use a land for the turn, you turn it sideways, or tap it, to generate a mana of its color, but it'll untap at the start of your next turn. I'll go first, so I'll put this forest into play.
I'm just going to play a land for my first turn too. You often won't have a card to play for your first couple of turns as you get your first lands onto the battlefield.
I get to put another forest into play this turn, so now I have enough to play this terrain elemental.
This is Terrain Elemental. It's a creature and its type is Elemental. Up here we have its cost: 1 green mana and 1 generic mana. This means you need 1 green mana and 1 mana of any colour to cast it. The decks we are using today are only 1 colour to keep things simple, but decks will often combine multiple colours. All spells will have a cost like this that tells you what you need to do to play it. This is the card's power and toughness. Power is how much damage the card deals, toughness is how much damage it can take before it dies.
Creatures can't attack the first turn you play them. We call this effect Summoning Sickness, so I'll pass the turn to Denis.
I'm going to play another land and then play my Falconwrath Reaver. You'll notice my creature costs the same as Oisín's creature but has less power. This is because green values strength above all, and green creatures tend to be a little bigger than creatures of other colours. All the colours have different strengths and weaknesses and feel different to play.
It's my turn now, so my terrain elemental's ready to attack. I turn it sideways, or tap it, to indicate that it is attacking.
So Oisín has attacked me with his elemental, and as the defending player I have a choice here. I can either block with any untapped creatures I have, like my vampire, or I can let the damage through and take it to my life total. If I block with my vampire, our creatures fight. They deal damage to each other equal to their power. In this case, both creatures can only take 2 damage before dying. My Reaver would take 3 damage from Oisín's elemental, and his elemental would take 2 damage from my vampire, so both creatures would be destroyed and go to the graveyard. I'm going to decide not to block though, and I'll take 3 damage, putting my life total to 17. The first player to reach 0 life loses the game.
So far, we've covered land cards and creature cards, but there's lots of other card types in Magic the Gathering. Today we're going to talk about 2 more: sorceries and instants. But to get an idea of how those work, we need to take a closer look at how a turn plays out in a game of Magic.
First, you have your untap step. All of your tapped cards, so lands you use to cast spells or creatures you attacked with, untap and are ready for action again. Then you have your upkeep step. Some cards tell you to do something during your upkeep, and if they do it now. Then you draw your card for the turn and move on to your main phase.
In your main phase, you can play lands and you can cast spells, but only if you have enough mana. Cards like sorceries don't stick around like creatures do, but they have an immediate effect on the game, such as drawing you extra cards or messing with your opponent's creatures. When a sorcery has had its effect, it goes to the graveyard. Once we're done casting our spells, we move to combat. As we saw earlier, the attacking player decides which creatures are attacking, the defending player decides which creatures block which, then damage is applied.
I'll attack, and since Usheen has no untapped creatures, he has no choice but to take the damage and go down to 18 life. After this, there's a second main phase where you can cast spells or play a land if you didn't play one earlier. As the game goes on, you'll put more and more lands into play, allowing you to cast bigger creatures and more powerful spells. When you're done, you pass the turn and your opponent's turn starts. I'm not going to do anything else this turn, so I'm going to pass to Usheen.
It's my turn again, so I'll untap, go through my upkeep phase, and draw a card. I'm just going to play a land for my first main phase, then go straight to attacking Denis again with my Terrain Elemental.
I'm going to stop Usheen here because I have a card that I can play during his turn. Usually you can only play cards during your own main phase, but Shock is an instant, which means you can play it at any time, even during your opponent's turn. Shock lets me deal 2 damage to a creature or a player, so I'm going to deal 2 damage to Usheen's Terrain Elemental.
My Terrain Elemental only has 2 Toughness, so that's going to be enough to destroy it and send it to the graveyard before it can deal its damage to Denis again. We only showed you a couple of the card types in the game, but there's so much more, like artifacts, enchantments, and even planeswalker cards that represent the heroes and villains of Magic's story.
Those are the basics of the game. You fling creatures and spells at each other until one of you emerges victorious. But that's really only the tip of the iceberg. There are over 16,000 unique Magic the Gathering cards and dozens of ways to play the game, so there really is something for everyone. You are now more than ready to start slinging spells. Head to wizards.com/locator to find a store near you and see if you can't make it to one of the Magic Open House events on April 15th. But remember, stores have welcome decks and plenty of helpful players available all year round, so there is never a bad time to start. Thanks again to Wizards of the Coast for helping us make this guide to the game, and I hope to see you at your local game store.